14-year-old Nia shifted nervously in the crowded school hallway. Lockers slammed, students rushed past in noisy clusters, and the walls echoed with laughter and shouted greetings. But for Nia, the noise only heightened her unease. She had been dreading this moment all morning, knowing that somewhere nearby, Caleb would be waiting. Caleb, with his bleached blonde hair and cold blue eyes, was infamous at Jefferson High. Not for grades or sports, but for his constant jabs, cruel jokes, and worst of all, the racist insults he threw at Nia almost every day. It had started as whispering comments when she walked by, then escalated to louder taunts and public humiliation. The teachers often looked the other way, too overwhelmed or unwilling to confront the problem. Nia's heart pounded as she reached the cafeteria entrance. She hoped today would be different, but deep down, she feared it wouldn't. Inside, the smell of pizza and fries filled the air. Groups of students laughed and ate, the buzz of conversations filling the room. Nia spotted a table near the window where a few girls from her class were sitting, safe, familiar faces. But as she moved towards them, a sharp voice cut through the noise. Well, if it isn't little Nia. Still pretending to fit in? Caleb sneered, stepping into her path. A hush fell around them. Some students watched, curious, others uneasy. Nia's fists clenched. She tried to keep her voice steady. Leave me alone, Caleb. He laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Or what? You gonna cry again? You know, I'm just telling it like it is. No one here really wants you around. The words hit like a punch. A few students chuckled, others exchanged uncomfortable glances. Nia felt the familiar sting of tears but fought to hold them back. Just walk away, she whispered, but Caleb wasn't done. He grabbed her backpack roughly, yanking it from her shoulder. Maybe this will teach you some respect. Suddenly, the weight of days, weeks, months of abuse crashed down. Nia's fear twisted into something fierce and raw, anger. Without thinking, she shoved Caleb hard. He stumbled backward, surprise flashing in his eyes. Before anyone could react, she grabbed him by the collar, pushed him onto the nearest table with a loud crash. The cafeteria went silent. Nia's heart hammered. She looked into Caleb's shocked face, then the faces of the students around. And something inside her snapped. She started hitting him, fist pounding, tears mixing with rage. The crowd froze, unsure what to do. Stop, someone yelled. Teachers rushed over as chaos erupted. Nia's arms trembled, her breath ragged. The fight was over as fast as it began, but the storm it unleashed was just beginning. The cafeteria was chaos. Teachers pulled Nia away from Caleb, who sat rubbing his jaw, his face flushed with a mix of pain and fury. Students whispered and stared, some shocked, others openly cheering. The principal's voice boomed through the noise. Nia Williams, come with me to the office. Now. Nia's legs felt heavy, like she was walking through quicksand. Her heart raced, adrenaline still pulsing through her veins, but a sharp ache of guilt gnawed at her. In the quiet of the principal's office, the door clicked shut behind her. Mrs. Reynolds, a stern woman with deep-set eyes, looked at Nia over the rims of her glasses. This kind of behavior is unacceptable. Violence is never the answer. Nia swallowed hard. He's been calling me names every day, saying things about my skin, my family. I couldn't take it anymore. Mrs. Reynolds sighed. We understand bullying is a problem, but fighting won't solve it. Nia nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. I just wanted it to stop. Counseling will be arranged. And you will face suspension. The word hit her like a blow. Outside, the whispers followed her down the hall. Did you see Nia beat up Caleb? She's crazy. He deserved it. Her best friend, Maya, met her by her locker, eyes wide. Nia, are you okay? What happened? I lost it, Nia whispered. Maya grabbed her hand. You're not alone. But Nia felt the walls closing in, the loneliness, the pain, and now the fear of what would come next. The days after the cafeteria fight felt like walking through a fog. Nia tried to focus on classes, but the stares and murmurs followed her everywhere. Hallways that used to feel safe now seemed like battlegrounds. Caleb's attacks didn't stop. If anything, they grew worse. His smirks turned to sneers, his words sharper, more cutting. Look at you, playing the victim, he spat one morning by her locker, his blonde hair catching the fluorescent light. Nobody's on your side. Nia's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but the weight of the suspension and the principal's warning kept her silent. At home, she shut her bedroom door and collapsed onto her bed. Tears came freely now, mixing pain with exhaustion. Her mother, sensing something was wrong, knocked gently. Nia, sweetheart, are you all right? Nia shook her head, words choking in her throat. It's hard, she finally whispered. It feels like I'm invisible and hated all at once. Her mother sat beside her, pulling her into a hug. You're not invisible to me. You're stronger than you know. At school, Maya stood by Nia's side, but even their friendship couldn't shield her completely. One afternoon, during lunch, Caleb threw a plastic tray in Nia's direction. It clattered to the floor near her feet. Maybe if you weren't such a freak, people wouldn't hate you, he sneered. This time, something inside Nia broke differently. She looked around, some students laughed nervously, others looked away. She clenched her fists, but before she could react, a voice interrupted. Caleb, that's enough. It was Mr. Thompson, the history teacher. His stern gaze pinned Caleb in place. Bullying isn't tolerated here. One more incident, and you'll face serious consequences. Caleb scowled but backed off, muttering under his breath. Nia exhaled slowly. Maybe this was the beginning of something changing. The days blurred into one another as Nia navigated the halls of Jefferson High like a ghost. Each step felt heavier than the last. Even with Mr. Thompson's warning to Caleb, the tension didn't ease. Caleb seemed to feed off the attention, and his anger simmered beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to explode. One morning, Nia found a note slipped into her locker. The words were scrawled, hateful, dripping with venom. You don't belong here. Go back to where you came from. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. The cafeteria fight, the suspensions, the insults, it all circled in her mind like a storm. That afternoon, in math class, Caleb sat nearby, whispering cruel jokes with his friends, making sure she heard every word. The humiliation wrapped around her like a noose. Why don't you say something, Nia? He taunted, smirking. Her voice barely above a whisper, she replied, because you're not worth it. But inside, her heart was breaking. At home, her mother noticed the change, the silence, the shadows under her eyes. Nia, please talk to me, she urged one evening. Nia shook her head, retreating to her room. She sat on the edge of her bed, fingers trembling. The weight of loneliness was crushing. That night, unable to sleep, she opened her journal. Words poured out pain, anger, fear, and a desperate wish to be seen and heard. Her tears stained the pages as she wrote. I'm tired of fighting alone. When will this end? The following week, Nia woke up feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. But somewhere deep inside, a small spark refused to die. She knew she couldn't keep suffering in silence. At school, she sought out the counselor's office. The hallways were buzzing, but Nia focused on the door ahead, her heartbeat quickening. Inside, Mrs. Carter, the school counselor, smiled warmly. Nia, I'm glad you came. Nia hesitated, then spilled everything, the bullying, the fear, the loneliness. Mrs. Carter listened carefully, nodding with understanding. You're incredibly brave for sharing this. We'll work together to keep you safe. They discussed strategies, setting boundaries, involving trusted teachers, and ways to cope when Caleb was near. That afternoon, Nia felt lighter. Maya stood by her side, more determined than ever. Let's not let him win, Maya said fiercely. You're stronger than he thinks. Meanwhile, Caleb's attitude didn't go unnoticed. A few teachers began watching more closely, ready to intervene. At home, Nia's mother noticed a subtle change. You're speaking up, she said softly. Nia smiled weakly. I have to. For me. Though the battle was far from over, Nia had found a flicker of hope, a reason to keep fighting. Despite the new support from the counselor and her friends, the storm raging around Nia only grew fiercer. Caleb didn't back down. In fact, his anger seemed to deepen, twisting into something more dangerous and unpredictable. One late afternoon, as the final bell rang and students flooded the hallways, Nia clutched her books tightly, trying to stay invisible. But she wasn't quick enough. A sudden, forceful shove sent her staggering against the lockers. She gasped, struggling to catch her breath. Caleb stood before her, a cruel smirk playing on his lips, his blonde hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights. His entourage, a group of smirking boys, hovered close by, their eyes gleaming with amusement. You really think that counselor and your little friends will save you? Caleb sneered, stepping closer so only she could hear. They won't. You're all alone in this, Nia. And everyone's tired of your act. Nia's heart hammered painfully against her ribs, but she clenched her jaw and squared her shoulders. Leave me alone, Caleb. He laughed darkly, the sound echoing off the lockers. Or what? You gonna cry again? Break down like a scared little girl. A knot twisted in Nia's stomach, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her falter. No, I'm not scared of you. Before Caleb could say more, Mrs. Graham, the nearby English teacher, appeared at the end of the hall. Her sharp gaze swept over the scene like a warning flare. "Caleb, enough," Mrs. Graham said firmly, stepping forward. "You need to leave her alone right now." Caleb scowled but reluctantly backed away, pulling his friends with him. The crowd that had been gathering began to disperse, whispers still hanging thick in the air. But the damage had been done. In the days that followed, the school buzzed with rumors and whispers. Some students called Nia too sensitive, accusing her of making a mountain out of a molehill. Others painted Caleb as the victim, the poor misunderstood kid who was just joking around. The loneliness pressed down on Nia like a physical weight. At home, her mother watched the subtle signs, the dark circles under Nia's eyes, the way she flinched at sudden noises, the silence during dinner. "Nia," her mother said one evening, reaching out to gently touch her daughter's arm, "you're pushing yourself too hard. You need to rest. You can't carry this burden alone." Nia forced a weak smile but shook her head. "I can't stop. Not now." Because stopping meant giving Caleb the victory. It meant surrendering to the fear, the pain, the endless cycle of torment. Nia felt trapped between fighting and breaking. One night, the walls of her bedroom seemed to close in tighter than ever. She curled up on her bed, tears streaming freely down her cheeks as the weight of exhaustion, fear, and frustration crushed her. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," she whispered into the darkness, voice trembling. Her phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. A message from Maya lit up the screen. "You're not alone. We'll get through this together." Nia wiped her tears, feeling a small flicker of warmth. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind her she wasn't invisible. The nights were the hardest for Nia. Alone in her room, the silence screamed louder than any insult. But slowly, amid the shadows of pain, something inside her began to stir, a fierce, quiet strength. After school, she started spending more time with Maya and a small group of friends who accepted her. They laughed, shared stories, and for the first time in weeks, Nia felt a glimpse of normalcy. One afternoon, Maya nudged her gently. "You should speak at the school assembly. Tell everyone what you're going through." Nia's eyes widened. "Me? I couldn't." "Why not? You're brave. Your story could change things." The idea scared her, but also sparked a tiny flame of hope. Meanwhile, Caleb's hostility grew more erratic. One day, he tripped her in the hallway, causing her books to scatter. "This isn't over," he hissed. Nia caught herself before falling, looking him straight in the eye. "No, it's not." That night, Nia practiced her speech in front of the mirror, shaky at first, then stronger with each word. "I am more than the names they call me. I am strong. I am worthy. And I will not be silenced." When the day of the assembly arrived, Nia stepped onto the stage, heart pounding. The auditorium fell silent. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and staff. Whispers filled the air as Nia stepped up to the microphone, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes on her. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to stand tall. "My name is Nia," she began, her voice steady but soft. "I'm a 14-year-old girl who's been through a lot these past months." She looked out into the crowd, spotting familiar faces, some supportive, others skeptical. "I want to talk about bullying, about the pain it causes, and how it can make you feel invisible." She took a deep breath, memories flooding back. The insults, the isolation, the fights. "I was bullied because of my skin color. Because I dared to stand up for myself." A murmur ran through the room. Some students shifted uncomfortably, others listened intently. "But I'm here to say that no one deserves to be treated that way. No one should live in fear at school." Her voice grew stronger, filled with determination. "If you see someone being bullied, speak up. If you're the one being bullied, know that you are not alone. And together, we can make this school a place where everyone feels safe and respected." When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then, slowly, applause began, first a few scattered claps, then more, until the entire auditorium was clapping. Nia felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. For the first time, she wasn't just a victim. She was a voice, a force for change. Outside, Caleb's expression darkened as he watched. But the tide was turning. The day after Nia's speech, the halls of Jefferson High felt transformed. Though not completely peaceful, there was a new, tangible shift in the air. The usual whispers and sideways glances weren't quite the same. Now, many voices carried respect, curiosity, or even admiration. As Nia walked through the crowded corridors, her heart pounded, not with fear, but with a strange mixture of pride and anxiety. She spotted Maya waiting for her by the lockers, a wide smile lighting up her face. "You killed it, Nia," Maya exclaimed, throwing an arm around her shoulder. Seriously, everyone's talking about you. People you didn't expect even. Nia smiled faintly, the weight on her chest feeling lighter. I still can't believe I did it. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, Maya said firmly. You've changed things already. You've given other kids hope. Throughout the day, Nia noticed students who previously ignored her now offering nods or quick smiles. A few even approached her quietly during breaks. Hey, Nia, whispered a shy sophomore girl. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you before. You're really strong. Nia's throat tightened, but she nodded in thanks. However, not everyone welcomed the change. Caleb, once the cocky king of the schoolyard, found himself isolated. His usual group of friends began drifting away, uncomfortable with his mounting aggression and the backlash after the assembly. One gray afternoon, Caleb stormed into the counselor's office, slamming the door behind him. Mrs. Carter looked up, her calm gaze meeting his stormy one. This isn't over, Caleb hissed, pacing the room. She thinks she's untouchable now. She's ruined everything. Mrs. Carter's voice remained steady. Bullying won't be tolerated anymore, Caleb. It's time you face the consequences. Caleb clenched his fists, frustration boiling over, but said nothing more and left abruptly. Meanwhile, the teachers at Jefferson High ramped up their efforts. Mr. Thompson gathered the football team in the gymnasium, speaking with a hard edge. We've had enough of this behavior, he said sternly. If any of you harass or bully your classmates again, you'll face suspension or worse. This school is for learning, not for cruelty. Back at home, Nia's mother watched her daughter with a new sense of awe and relief. You did something amazing, Nia, she said one evening, holding her close. I'm so proud of you. Nia rested her head against her mother's shoulder, exhausted but hopeful. I'm scared sometimes, she admitted quietly. But I'm not alone anymore. Her mother smiled warmly. You never will be. Despite the growing support and changes, Nia knew the fight was far from over. Caleb's shadow still loomed, but now, with allies by her side and her voice louder than ever, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Jefferson High slowly began to change. The halls no longer echoed with whispers meant to hurt, but with cautious conversations about respect and kindness. Nia found herself surrounded by friends who genuinely cared. Maya and the others stood by her side through every step, reminding her that she wasn't alone. Caleb's anger didn't disappear overnight, but the support around Nia weakened his hold. One afternoon, he approached Nia alone in the cafeteria. The tension was thick, but this time, Caleb's tone was different, less mocking, more uncertain. Look, Nia. I guess I messed up, he said quietly. Nia looked up, surprised. I never thought about how much I was hurting you. I don't know how to fix this. Nia took a deep breath. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but neither was holding on to hate. It's not about fixing me, Caleb. It's about changing how we treat each other. You have a choice now. Caleb nodded slowly, and for the first time, the walls between them cracked. At home, Nia's mother watched her daughter blossom stronger, braver, more hopeful. One evening, as Nia prepared for bed, she looked at her reflection and smiled. She had survived. She had fought, and she had won a piece of her peace. The battle against bullying and racism wasn't over, but Nia knew she had the strength to keep fighting and to help others find their voice too.